Welcome to the Unlist. Today's video is going to be a bit of a palate cleanser from the last video. And those of you who are just finding my channel based off of this video, the last video I did called Tough Love, episode 70, was basically me sitting y'all down like a Catholic school nun and cracking your knuckles. I was upbraiding you guys for about 20 minutes. And I was doing that because I've been in the online fragrance community for a few decades now, and I've gotten tired of how just solipsistic and self-centered and just combative people have gotten over something like this, something that doesn't require that level of hostility, right? Doesn't require that level of protectiveness. You know, you're not talking about, you know, the classic triggers like politics or religion, okay? We're talking about perfume. We're not talking about human rights. We're not talking about the climate here. So I'm like, y'all need to step it back and try to have some constructive conversations. You can argue all you want. You can make your point heard. You can challenge someone else's point of view. That's not it. That's not it. You can do all that. You just, you know, constructively, right? Everybody has to walk away having gained from the experience, or else it's a tremendous waste of time. So that video is up. You can go back and watch that video if you're curious about what I had to say on that topic. Otherwise, this is a palate cleanser, and it is bang for buck, which, for those of you who might be wondering, what do I mean by bang for buck? You know, most bang for your buck. I'm talking about long-lasting, affordable fragrances. Fragrances that seem to give you the most value pound for pound for what you spend. Now, there can be a bit of a gray area to that because some of you are millionaires and you think bottles of Creed are a good value, okay? Some of you out there, maybe you aren't millionaires, but you're homeowners, you're white-collar workers. You make enough money that you're not living paycheck to paycheck, so you might think something like Tom Ford is fairly standard, right? Fairly run-of-the-mill. I can't judge your financial situation, so I cannot define for everyone what is or isn't affordable, especially in a luxury market like perfume. So I'm setting my baseline very low. My baseline is, of course, tied to my income, right? What else would it be? So my baseline is the working class, the blue-collar folks, the folks who probably but might not live paycheck to paycheck, might have a home if they bought it years ago, but more than likely rent, you know, renters. Don't buy new cars, okay? Don't really buy designer clothes, that's for sure. Don't shop at Whole Foods, okay? They shop at Safeway. They buy their groceries at Safeway or Giant, okay? That's the person I'm talking about. The person who eats out maybe once a week, if they can. If not, they do a lot of home cooking, or they meal prep, whatever. That's the person, you know, the bread and butter person is who I am talking about when I talk about most bang for buck with perfumes or long-lasting and affordable fragrances. Now let's get going. From my perspective, you know, being 42 years old, still being a working class guy, will probably be to the day I die at this point. I see the fragrances that are most bang for buck typically as designer fragrances sold at a very steep discount because they're older or they're fairly ubiquitous, okay? So they're either been out for a long time, so the brands have made tons of money and they don't mind taking a hit on the margin anymore because of how popular it is, or they're just so ubiquitous, they don't have the brand cachet they used to have. They're kind of taken for granted, you know? Those are kind of the prime examples of fragrances that are going to be, in my opinion, most bang for buck, because you're getting a solid, reputable fragrance from a solid, reputable brand, be it a designer or something else, for an amount of money that may not be the cheapest out there, okay? Bottom line, may not be the least expensive, but will be for most people perfectly acceptable. So, the unlist, as it were, because they're not in any particular order. You know how I do this channel, right? The name says it all. The unlist for fragrances like this, for me, is just going to arbitrarily begin with, let's throw a dart at the board. Eternity for Men by Calvin Klein, 1989. This fragrance is most bang for buck for me because it is such an even-keeled fragrance, such a pleasant fragrance. It neither smells incredibly dated nor does it smell super modern. It smells like a clean, fresh. I'm not afraid of deodorant. I'm not afraid of shampoo. I may not buy my clothes from the most expensive store, but I do buy nice looking clothes, right? I care about the way I carry myself. I care about my appearance. I'm a professional. Maybe they're not a fashion model. I mean, look at me. I'm not a fashion model, but they know how to groom. They know how to keep themselves. So when they're out and about, they don't resemble Quasimodo, okay? And they don't smell like they haven't touched water in like 2 weeks, okay? So we're talking presentable, average, common, pleasant fragrance that has a perfectly average, acceptable amount of performance. You will get about 6 hours from this, okay? The sillage will not be immense. The projection will not be 20 feet away, okay? It'll be maybe like here, which is enough. Arm's length is usually enough projection in my mind. I don't want someone to be gassing me out from across the street. So if they walk past me with a few feet to spare and I can smell them, good enough, okay? Good enough for government work is a phrase I use very commonly. Good enough for government work. And Calvin Klein, Eternity for Men, released in 1989, is exactly that. It is good enough for government work. If you are a postal worker, if you work for the IRS, if you hold any kind of clerical position within the U.S. government, you may be on furlough not too much longer, the way things are going, but that's the kind of fragrance you would probably wear to work, you know, park your Ford Taurus you've driven for about 15 years now, your 15-year-old Ford Taurus, you drive it to work, you've got your beige clothes on, your clip-on tie, you're ready to go in, okay? You're wearing Calvin Klein, Eternity for Men. That might sound depressing for some of you, right, because it's so average, so middle of the road, but it really isn't depressing because it's dependable. You see, I appreciate that, you know? Ford Taurus, dependable car, you know? Dependable fragrance, Calvin Klein, Eternity for Men. It's not going to turn heads, okay? It's not going to make someone throw their underwear at you, all right? I don't really seek that in a fragrance myself, but you will always smell clean, presentable. This is the perfect fragrance to wear to an interview if you're trying to land a job with someone. You want to smell well put together. You don't want to gas out your employer, right? So, Eternity for Men. It can be for 18-year-olds. It can be for 28, 38, 48, 58, 68-year-olds, okay, all the way up. Doesn't really have an age. And there are a bazillion flankers to explore. That's the best part. Calvin Klein Eternity for Men is a gateway fragrance, too, because it has so many flankers. You buy the original one for like $25, $30, okay? You buy that original one for $30 from a Ross, a TJ Maxx, Marshalls, from an online discounter, eBay, wherever you get it, you buy a tester, you get it, it scratches the itch, and you're like, hey, what about the intense version? Hey, what about the Eau de Parfum? Hey, there's a cologne variety. Hey, they've got one called Fire. They've got one called Aqua, okay? They've got one called this. They've got one called that. You can go down a rabbit hole with that fragrance if you want to, okay? So it serves multiple purposes, and in my opinion, it is kind of that perfect baseline men's fragrance. It is a fragrance I often recommend to people who don't like fragrances, don't want to wear fragrances, but they want something. They want something, okay? And that fragrance never fails. I have never had anyone throw that back in my face. I have never, in all the years I've been doing this, all the years, I have never had anyone throw Calvin Klein, Eternity for Men, back in my face and say, this stinks, this is horrible, why'd you recommend this? That's never happened. Now that I've said that, one of you is going to try and be like, oh yeah, well you recommend it to me and I hate it. And I'm going to be like, I don't know you. I don't know you. So don't go pull one of those in the comment section because you're lying. So just saying, throwing it out there. That's a great one, okay, for me. Next up from that, not really in particular order, but, you know, keeping it in and around this sort of best bang for buck is, well, how can I say it? I can't really say it any differently. But if you're looking for a fragrance that is also going to give you a huge satisfaction, you're going to feel really good about wearing it, okay? It's going to be a little thing that I like to call Eau de Baux by L'Occitane, okay? I'm not traditionally a big fan of Eau de Baux by L'Occitane, but It's a very sophisticated fragrance. It's got that tobacco vibe. It's got some pepper in it. So it kind of crosses the streams between tobacco vanille and a spice bomb, which is hilarious because it's older than both. This is almost a secret weapon fragrance. If I was going to do a video about secret weapons, which I might do that later now that I mention it, but if I was going to do a secret weapon fragrance, this would be one of them, for sure. This would be a fragrance I'd say you could wear this and nobody would know what you're wearing. But they would think you smell amazing, but they wouldn't know what it is because it crosses these two very popular streams. It crosses these streams. And that is that tobacco, sweet tonka vibe that people enjoy today, all right? And that peppery, sharp, bracing vibe that people also seem to enjoy, okay? So it is midway between something like a tobacco vanille, okay, and something like a spice bomb. And it's older than both. Again, hilarious. This came out in 2006. Tobacco vanille was 2007. And spice bomb was 2010. So there you go. Older than both. And it does basically both of the things that they both do together in one bottle. Now, it's starting to slide down the bang for buck ladder a bit because it used to be you got more juice for less money. You used to be able to get a 100 ml bottle for about $60, which was pretty good, okay? Especially considering how strong and potent this fragrance is. Very potent stuff. And it has shaving amenities, it has soap. So if you want to go down the wet shaver rabbit hole, if you're the guy that uses the twin blade like I do, and the bowl and the brush, you can get all that good stuff too. With just find a L'Occitane store somewhere, walk in it, or go online, you know, get the stuff on them interwebs. You know how to do it. You can push the buttons and click the mouse. It's not hard. And you can get it. And it'll cover that for you as well, if that's what you're interested in. If you want a, like an all-in-one, it does everything. Like there's even like a shampoo, I think. They've got a body wash, all that fun stuff. L'Occitane is kind of all about the accompanying bath products. All their stuff is like that. Women's stuff too. But yes, Eau de Baux, fantastic fragrance. Recommend it. Great bang for buck. You'll feel amazing when you wear it. You'll feel sophisticated. You'll feel sexy if you care about that. If you don't, because clearly I'm in a Star Wars shirt, so I don't care about my sexuality whatsoever. I don't care. But just saying, if you do care, that fragrance will cover it for you, okay? It covers all that stuff. Now, moving right along. If you're like me and you like your vintage classic stuff, okay? You like your classic stuff. You like your 70s style, your mossiness. You like your soapy fougères. You like the real green patchouli things. You want that Burt Reynolds vibe, right? You want that Smokey and the Bandit vibe, or maybe more of a Gene Hackman kind of vibe, okay? That's what you're going for, like that's your thing. This fragrance is probably the biggest bang for buck I can name in this hemisphere. And it is the original Bogart men's fragrance. The house launching. Its official name is Bogart Eau de Toilette pour Homme. That's the official name. 1974 is the release date for this one, by the way. Comes in a square bottle with a tall square cap, a giant B on it. Can't miss it. It's kind of hard to miss. Now, a lot of people will call it Bogart Signature, and they call it that because newer bottles, not older ones, but newer bottles have a pen nib, and the pen nib is writing something. So they say it's Bogart Signature, and I do call it that myself sometimes too. I will not lie that I do slip and I say it's Bogart Signature, but it's really not called that. Its full name is just Bogart Eau de Toilette pour Homme. It is effectively the eponymous, however you pronounce that word. It is that namesake fragrance that launched the brand. Now, what does it smell like? It's fantastic. It's like if you took Paco Rabanne Pour Homme or Irish Spring Soap or Sir Irish Moss or any of those green kind of soapy mossy things, you take that particular style of fougere, okay, that mossy green soapy patchouli style. We'll stick with the Paco Rabanne because it's easier for most of y'all to figure out what I'm talking about. But take that Paco Rabanne Irish Spring vibe and then graft in some dry leather. I'm talking like a Russian leather, a birch kind of smoky, dried, cured, clovey kind of leather. So think like Clubman Pinot, the special for gentlemen version, the brown juice. Think about that. Or if you're a fancy schmancy guy and you're high up and you've got a lot of money, you could also say vintage Tabaron by Creed. So it kind of feels a bit like Vintage Tabaron by Creed, or like that Clubman Pinot special for gentlemen, that version. It takes that brown sort of belt leather, right? That dried, again, the Russian leather, the dark reddish color leather boots. It takes that vibe with the birch tar and the clove, and it merges it into the fougere. So it opens up soapy, it opens up clean, it opens up very pleasant, and then it gets very masculine, very dry, very leathery in the base. It has oak moss, so it maintains a fougere aspect to it. It does maintain a fougere aspect, but it has a leather aspect as well, and that makes it special. Honestly, it's a great fragrance at any price. Okay, if it was $100, it'd be a great fragrance. If it was $200, I might have to go, well, it's a good fragrance now. Not a great fragrance, but at $100, it's still a good fragrance. But you can get it for like $20, $30. You can get it for next to nothing because it's a Bogart fragrance. And all Bogart fragrances are inexpensive. That is their thing. They like to give you the most boom pow for the least amount of ching ching. So you get a lot of boom pow, a little bit of ching ching. That's what they do. A lot of their other fragrances, though, are very garish, very machismo, chest puffed out, you know, stuff like One Man Show, stuff like Furio, stuff like Silver Scent, right? Stuff like, you know, just as really heavy, sweet, or heavy, strong, musky. You know, that's their vibe, okay? All the way up to stuff like Arabian Nights and Riviera Nights, very loud, you know, Furio, very loud, very obnoxious. I love that stuff, okay? I do. I love that stuff. The Powerhouse stuff is great, you know. Gold Blend or Gold Edition One Man Show is superb. But if that's not you, that's not your vibe, you're not looking for that. You just want dapper, you want clean. But you want an old school feel. You want that dapper, clean, old school feel. But you don't want to shell out a bunch of money. Boom. Bogart's got you covered. Bogart's got you covered. Now, moving up a little bit, you knew I was going to eventually name an Avon fragrance sooner or later, because Avon is kind of like the alpha and the omega of bang for buck, right? Avon is kind of where it's at. If value is your maximum pleasure, okay, is value. And this is where I'm going to stop, all right? Another mature, a bit of an older fragrance, okay? But one that a lot of younger people, I think, would still find appealing today. And it is a fragrance they still make even, okay? They still make it. It's Mesmerize for Men, released in 1992. Comes in a blue bottle, like almost a cobalt blue, all right, with gold letters on it, and a gold minaret cap. Looks almost like someone took a bottle of Polo and made it blue and then stretched it out and turned it into like a hip flask. It's the kind of vibe it's got. But it doesn't smell like Polo blue, make no mistake. This is a fragrance that kind of is at home in both a clubbing situation, because it has sweet, fruity notes and tonka, but also at home in a formal situation. So you can dress it up with a black tie, you can put a suit on it, you can take it to a fancy restaurant. Yes, you can literally wear an Avon fragrance to a 5-star or whatever it is, 3 Michelin star. I don't know. I don't go to those places. I don't have the money to eat at those places. I can't afford to eat there. But if you're able to afford to eat there and you want to wear a cheap fragrance that doesn't smell cheap, boom, Mesmerize for Men. It's got you covered. And you can also spray a bunch on and go to the club and cut a rug or two, whatever. Whatever your vice is, you can do it in this fragrance. And it is sweet. It has got a sandalwood note. I know it's not real sandalwood, okay? But it's got a sandalwood note in it. And it's also got that nice frankincense note in there. It's got that. It's trying to be a Middle Eastern fragrance. It's trying to be something of like what we call a semi-oriental with a fougere. So it's got your lavender, it's got your geranium, your tonka, your oak moss. It's got the sandalwood, the incense. It's got this apple note in it too. It's just a mishmash, mandarin orange. It's a fragrance that smells like a more youthful, more playful take on like a heritage, like a Lalique pour Homme, like a Bois de Portugal. And a lot of younger guys think those are too stuffy. So if you're a younger guy and you've tried Bois de Portugal and it's too stuffy, you've tried Heritage, it's too stuffy, okay, you've tried Lalique, it's too stuffy, guess what? This cheap Avon fragrance may be the one you want. This Mesmerize for Men from 1992. So yeah, it's a bit of an older fragrance now. This might be what you want because it takes all of that stuff and makes it a bit sweeter, a bit kinder, a bit softer spoken, but still enough bang for buck, enough performance, enough longevity, okay, enough perceivable quality, keyword here, enough perceivable quality. It may not be quality ingredients-wise, but it'll feel like quality. And that's really all that matters when you're wearing a fragrance. You're not really concerned about what's in it. You're concerned about how does it make you feel when you wear it, right? That's the bottom line here. And the satisfaction you get from using it. So there you guys have it. Those are some of my longest lasting affordable fragrances, bang for buck, guys who are pinching pennies, guys who are watching what they spend, okay, but they want something that's going to feel worthwhile. That is my unlist for those, and I will tag it as 2023 because I may do one next year at any point in time when I so feel like it. Thanks for watching the unlist, and catch you next time.